Happy New Year and welcome to the Wednesday, January 4th, 2023 Garrison Board of Education regular workshop business meeting. Okay, Dusty, will you call the roll, please?
Jocelyn Apicello. David Gelber.
Excused.
Madeline Julian.
Here.
Courtney McCarthy.
Here.
Kent Schott.
Here.
Matthew Spicer.
Here.
Sarah Tormey.
Here. Lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Next up, I have accept agenda changes. Does anyone have any recommended changes to this evening's agenda as presented? Okay. Be resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby accept the agenda as presented. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nay. Abstentions. Thank you. All right, now that brings us to President's remarks. Welcome everyone back. Be very brief this evening. We did a lot right before the break. It was very busy here. One of the things we met with Haldane, Kent and I met with one of their board members and the superintendent to start looking at tuition for future cohorts. I think we had a productive discussion. We reviewed our budget constraints and some of our fiscal difficulties, which we will continue to face. We'll start to hear more about that through the budget process this coming spring. We did discuss having a resolution for our future cohorts by June of this year. So we will keep you updated if there's any further conversations on to how that's going. Kent, do you want to add anything?
No, it's a positive discussion. Hopefully the first of many to get us to where we need to be.
Yeah, that was great. It seemed very, very open to listening and discussing, which is great. Other than that, I don't have anything else. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thanks, Sarah. Welcome back, everyone. I have also just one update for the board and the community. We're starting the budget process. Joe and I have been working on a rollover budget, which we hope to have within a couple of weeks for the board to review. The Finance Committee is scheduled to meet next Monday, I believe, is our next meeting. We'll probably set up 2 or 3 additional meetings over the next few months. We're excited about that. Being proactive, we thought it would be wise to reach out to our Senator-elect, Robert Rolson, who is currently the mayor of Poughkeepsie. Or, no, I take that back. Was the mayor of Poughkeepsie when we met with him in December, and of course now he, I'm sure, is sworn in and is officially our senator. But he was Senator-elect a couple of weeks back. He was very good. He came to the school. Courtney, Sarah, Joe and I met with him. We spent some time. We did explain some of the budget challenges we faced last year. We also shared with him that Senator Skoufis was able to secure special aid for the district last year. He was very receptive to trying to pursue that for us once again. We did talk about the budget gap that we anticipate, and we're hopeful that he'll be able to support us. So with that, we also decided to reach out to our new Assemblywoman, Dana Levenberg. She is also new to Albany. She was down in Ossining. She was a school board member. She also was the chief of staff for Sandy Galef. And she's accepted an invitation to meet with us on January 27th. So we'll have a similar meeting, and hopefully our 2 representatives will work together on behalf of the Garrison School District. What we're thinking, though, is if it plays out in a similar way to the way it played out last year, we probably would not have verification of any special aid until April. So Joe and I have talked about building a budget, not anticipating special state aid, but remaining hopeful that we could have special state aid. If we do get word in April like we did last year, then we could potentially have a list of things that we'd like to add to enhance, the school and the budget for next year. Okay? So we will keep you posted on that. And thank you.
All right, any questions for Carl before we move on? Okay. This brings us to board communications and presentations. Our first discussion this evening is the senior citizens property tax exemption. We discussed this, I believe, in September, and now we're bringing it back because we have more information. Joe, do you want to take this one?
Yes, so we did talk to our assessors, both for Putnam Valley and for the town of Phillipstown. There are currently 7 properties in Phillipstown and 2 in Putnam Valley. Oh, 2 in Putnam Valley that have, currently have the exemption. If we do adopt the new format for the exemption, most likely all of the ones in Phillipstown would qualify for the full 50% exemption. We don't know how many others would qualify. Probably not many. I would think we're talking on one hand kind of a thing as far as the additional but we don't know what that is. The way this exemption works is a way a lot of the other exemptions work, in that it doesn't change the amount of tax revenue that the district collects. It just shifts the revenue from one taxpayer to another. So it does mean more work for the assessors in the towns if the district does choose to adopt it, because they have to see how many more property holders are eligible and calculate those exemptions. But for the district itself, it doesn't mean a lot for us in terms of how we operate, because the work is being done by others.
Are other districts in Putnam County doing it?
So far, the only one that we have heard is going in that direction is Brewster, is the only one that we've heard of is seriously considering it. What?
Are the others not, or
No,
are they
I-
just not decided?
No one,
Undecided.
no one
I
have
think we're ahead of
discussed.
this a bit, because one of the things we talked about was, when we even brought this up in September, was separating this from our budget, our annual budget. So I think we're just a little bit ahead of some of the other districts on this, perhaps.
The only other district that has done it that we know of, that has a part of Putnam County, is Wappingers. Wappingers adopted it right away.
Remind us, is it only, are there any income limitation? Or
Yes, it's an income limited exemption for taxes. So, and it's, the county proposed it's a sliding scale, so it goes from, I believe, 10% to 50, depending on how much your earnings are, and the amount that's the 50% exemption increases over a 3-year term. So that's what the county adopted, a month or a half ago, or whatever it is. So the district has the opportunity to do that if it wishes, or if it doesn't have to.
And just to add to that, Joe, I was able to pull up the sliding scale that you're referring to. So basically, this current year, March 2023, the limit would be 40,000, the income limit, with a sliding scale up to 48,399. Then in the following year, it would go up by 5,000, 45,000 for the exemption, with a sliding scale up to 53,399. And then in 2025, 50,000, sliding scale up to 58,399. So it's a gradual phase-in. Right now, the current limit is 29,000, with a sliding scale up to 37,399.
One question, does it, and forgive me if I missed it in this, does it define what income is? So is it income, I would assume Social Security, any other fixed incomes, but for example, investment income, is that excluded if you?
So it just says the combined income of the owners of the property for the income tax year immediately preceding the date of making an application for the exemption.
It's from their federal personal income tax return, is that
Yeah.
correct? Okay. So that should then include things like capital gain.
And it
investment
says
income as
income
well.
tax year shall mean the 12-month period from which the owners file a federal personal income tax return, or if no such return is filed in the calendar year.
I'm sure it's the same income that they always use for
For everything.
STAR and other exemptions, right? Yeah.
Is it extra work for you, Joe? For us to adopt this?
No, not that I can tell.
And it does not harm the district financially. It is not extra work for you, but we get to pass along a little bit of help
To a
to
small
a couple of households.
number of households,
That could
yes.
use it.
Just to be clear, it's because we set the tax levy. I know we're going to talk about this a lot in the next coming months. And how that tax levy is dispersed among the households in the community is not our job. We
Right,
just
it's
set the
Yeah,
levy.
that depends upon the assessments and the exemptions that the taxpayers have, which are not determined by us other than, obviously setting new limits.
When do we need to decide by, since for once we are ahead of the game?
I think in order to be able to have people apply for the new exemptions, I think we have to do something within February.
And just, we only have one January meeting, so if you have, do you need more information on this? Is this something we're feeling comfortable with? Would you like some time to sit with it?
I feel comfortable with it, but I also had a question, which seems like it would be your work, but maybe not. How much the tax burden increases for the rest of the community as it gets spread across? Is it going to be like $10, $20?
Well, yeah, it's not, because it's a small number of properties, and you would think that the value of those properties are small. I don't think it's going to make a measurable impact in the individual taxpayer of the rest.
Is there a way to get to fit for, I don't need you to do it, I mean, is there a way for any of us to figure out more precisely? Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to do it if I knew where to look. Is there, like, you said $10, is it $10, is it?
Depends on how many.
Yeah,
Yeah. But that's going to vary every year anyway, based on the value, like as
Yeah.
houses get reassessed
Right.
when they sell, so it could shift.
Well, that as
Yeah,
well
but the
as well
first
as
year's the-
income. We would expect if the board did choose to go forward and adopt this, that, Joe, right now, currently 7 and 2, not 9 people eligible or 9 households eligible. I think you could expect that to go up maybe to 14 or 15. It would not be, so we don't know.
yeah.
The other factor is Social Security is going up by 8.7%, hasn't gone up that much in a long time, but that, could move some people, make them ineligible for the current maximum, but if we raise it, then maybe they would still be eligible. So those things are hard to
Yeah.
predict. But I agree with Joe. I think the impact to the rest of the Garrison taxpayers will be negligible.
What I would propose then, unless we have other questions, or think if you have other questions, send them in, and then we will revisit this on February 1st, thank you, at that meeting with the plan to adopt it if we are in favor of it. And if not, we won't adopt it, so. But that'll give people the time to process the paperwork, to make sure, because I think there's a March deadline to get your paperwork in if you are applying for a STAR or any of these exemptions, is that correct?
I believe that is correct.
Which is also a good reminder to anyone in the community who plans to apply for the current STAR exemption to please get the paperwork completed prior to the end of our budget process, as that was something we discussed last year. All right, any other questions or thoughts on this? And we'll see this again probably on February 1st. But if you have other questions, please send them to Joe. Okay. We are going to then move on to the Communications Task Force discussion. So we revisited this, I believe, at our reorg meeting. And at that time, we did not re-up the charge, basically, for the Communications Task Force. As you may recall, the task force was a 1 year, it's not like our reoccurring committees. It was put in place for 1 year. So what we're looking at tonight is, do we want to keep this charge, reinstate the committee? Communications is a board goal, a district goal. It's something I know we have struggled with as a community and we always strive to improve on. We have made improvements. For example, determining a specific platform or platforms for distribution of communications. We now have Parent Square, which we've been using, and hopefully that has streamlined and our community has seen a benefit from that. However, there's always more we can do, and we certainly want to both hear from the community as to their concerns and also make sure we're communicating effectively what we're doing. My favorite way to learn what's happening is to attend or watch board meetings, but I recognize that not everybody is as interested in doing that. So we need to maybe generate some other ideas. Courtney, I believe you were on this task force previously and had expressed an interest perhaps in this again?
Yes. Very much so. It's something that I am always interested in. I think it's not necessarily ever completed because it's something that we can always be working towards and growing. I'm interested to have a discussion about it and hear what other people think. I feel like it can walk a fine line of if we get too specific, it gets into micromanaging what's happening within the district. But I also, everybody's wearing 17 hats, and it's always helpful, I think, to have other ideas and brainstorming and sort of several sets of eyes looking at what is happening and what we want things to look like going forward. So I would be happy to work on a committee moving forward. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
So that brings me to one question I have for you, Carl. We are stretched thin, and we don't have a lot of administrators. Under the task force participation, it would be 3 board members, or a maximum of 3, as we can't have quorum, administration. Do you have the time, or other administrators have the time for this?
Yeah, I know last year with the branding and the new platform, I know Mike Sammartano was working with the admin team and more or less the point person. I'd like to discuss it with the admin team a bit more. I mean, we all need to be involved in this. We're all responsible for communication, but who would actually meet, as a committee? Maybe give us a week and we'll discuss it a little bit at our next admin meeting and come back to you with who we think is the best person. It may very well be me, and that would be great.
My other suggestion under participation would be to possibly add a PTA representative, so we have a community voice as to what communications would be useful to the community beyond what we think would be useful to them. So perhaps we could do an outreach to PTA and see if they are interested in sending a representative, as they've been particularly active this year too.
This is on the topic, but it kind of, because everyone's stretched thin and doing a lot. When we were doing our strategic coherence planning process, communications and community relations was the 4th goal that we worked on, but then the team cut it as a goal in our plan. And so I wonder, and it's for whatever reason, I can't recall. Because we have 3 huge ones that we have to accomplish, right, before we can get to the 4th one. But I wonder, do we have time for this? Because there's so many other things with the coherence plan that we have yet to address, or other types of issues. So I don't know. I mean, obviously it's important, but, and I'm the first one to harp on communications. And I would join you if we actually did it. But what do you all think? I mean,
I think I agree, because I think a lot of these things are ongoing, and I wonder if a committee solves, there's always issues with communication.
There's a reason it didn't do well. It didn't really work last year.
Yeah.
It's a very challenging, nebulous topic. Communication is a concept that we all admit we're not very good at, but it's not like, here's how we solve it, A, B, and C, and then we've got it done. It's like trying to put your arms around a bag of water. It's never going to get fully solved. So I think, having been on it last year, I recognize it's very challenging. I was probably one of the people in the room that said we shouldn't put it as one of our goals because it doesn't really have a solid, we've accomplished it or we haven't. But I'm not trying to shoot it all down. I definitely think we need to get better at it. But so that was inherently unhelpful, but just a perspective on it. I think it's going to be challenging.
I think that's helpful,
Okay.
especially because you were on both committees.
Yeah.
I also think the communications problems we see are like a problem in the country. It's not like a problem of our school necessarily.
It's almost like we need there's a through line of communications that goes through all of the committees. Like there's an element of communications in planning. There's communications in DEI to get it out to the community of what's being discussed.
The budget certainly needs to be communicated.
Right.
But does it help to have a committee to pass on, the budget, where you could just stop with the finance committee and say, all right, here's what we need to communicate? Do we then need to kick that information over to another committee? Seems redundant.
Communications liaison person, one person, and it's maybe one of us or maybe a PTA volunteer, but who's like, we bounce, I don't know, just to minimize too much groupthink on it. And since you volunteered first, it would be.
It would be
yeah.
Courtney.
I could do it. I wonder if there's value in, I hate to say the word, but putting out a survey to the community to see what they think about, to get some feedback on past communication strategies, what we're doing now, what's working, what people would like to see. But I don't know if that's overkill. We've put out a lot of surveys, there's been a lot of information, and sometimes you can only take in so many ideas.
Plus, those that we're not communicating well to won't get the survey.
Right.
And there's a lot of goals on here that perhaps the rest of the community might not see or have input in. For example, the internal communication structure for all faculty and staff. That's really an admin thing. That's not something that I think anyone in the community would be able to necessarily provide accurate feedback on. So yes, this has continued to come up as we struggle with communications. But I agree, maybe a committee, when we're all stretched thin and going to so many lovely meetings, might not be the best place for this, which may have been. I would only ask then, if we do decide not to move forward this time, we're going to take it off the table and we're not going to bring it back again. So next time we have an issue with communications, I think we do need to stick with the idea of, all right, how does this apply to the other committees and things we have, or discuss it in these meetings? We could just say something else other than a task force again. Matt?
I agree with all, I mean, some of these critiques apply to all committees of all time in every institution. I feel like 80% of committees could probably be canceled in the world, and things would become more efficient, not less. But
Like
that
meetings
is,
that could be summed up with, this could have been
you
an
could just do it at the main, you could eliminate 80% of meetings, but also you could do most of the committee work at the main meeting. But we so often are like, let's do a sub-meeting. So I would say, rather than get on a pedestal about committees writ large, in this case, when we could make the communications an agenda item more frequently here and talk together about ideas that we have, as we have them, for how to make communication better. Because I agree, it's not like there's not an obvious solution or we would have it. I mean, it's like everyone wants there to be a central place where you can go, like a town bulletin board. That's the website. Everyone wants communication to land in their lap. That's email and Parent Square. People want in-person contact with others, especially post-lockdown. That's the coffee hour. I mean, so like we've had the ideas, we've tried to implement the ideas. I don't know that there's like some magical unicorn idea out there that someone hasn't had. It's a matter of implementing it efficiently. It's a matter of trying to be consistent and kind of omnipresent. I mean, in an ideal world, we would have a bottomless budget and we would hire a communications person, right? That's like the idea of a person, an individual liaison whose sole responsibility in life is communicating on behalf of GUFs to the community. But that's not going to happen. So in place of that, it's like, well, what do we need? We need to essentially collectively take on what that person would do. And what that person would do would be anytime there's anything noteworthy, which is like every day, they would think about how do I get this out? So I just feel like if it's a priority, but it doesn't have an obvious solution, I would just make it a concerted effort on our part to put it on the agenda more frequently. And it doesn't need to be a half-hour presentation or a major piece, but like if we do 5-10 minutes at a lot of meetings where we're like, how is our communication this month? What's most important? And how do we consistently get it across platforms? Maybe we'll just be a little more intentional about reaching people where they are.
So we're going to rename this communications discussion. And we do have this board communications spot on the agenda. So Jesse, if we could make a note to maybe every other month, drop it in, and we will just have a discussion.
That's a great idea, thank you. And to add to that, reviewing the budget and really reflecting on last year and how we communicated and what we can do better to make sure that the whole community understands the budget, what's in it, what's not in it, before the vote. So whatever we can learn from last year, that should be top on the discussion.
I think that's a really good point. And then we have 3 meetings in March where we will begin discussing the budget. That is prior to the board adopting the budget. So those are great meetings to watch, to attend. There will be community sessions again for people to make their voices heard, share input, and all of that. Okay. So communications as agenda item is where we're ending up. We are not revisiting the idea of a task force. No one has to volunteer to join. And we will keep talking about this. It would be a good time to also remind everyone on the board that should you have something that you wish to see as a board communication or presentation or other agenda item, email it the week before to me and we'll look at it and see what we can do to keep discussions like this happening so we can talk about any ideas we might have in the meeting we already all have to attend versus a sub-meeting. So, all right. Well, that was good.
Well, I have one communications idea. Especially as we get into the budget season, when we do the board meeting presentations, even if it's probably someone who's tech savvy and young, doesn't mind doing it, to timestamp the presentations so that we know exactly what's being said. It'll help people. You know what? I don't know if it's called timestamping, but it'll make it easier for people to get to what they want to see.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how to do it, but they have that on YouTube videos all the time right now, like, right?
Yes.
It's on the YouTube, yeah.
Great. So it's
So it is done. We're there.
See, now, thank God, we learn about it. I don't watch the videos, sorry. I just
don't
outed
watch ours
myself.
either. I only,
Here, I think that's okay.
Good.
I was gonna say, I only watch other districts. I know they do it, so. Yeah, I think, and maybe as our role, we need to go out into the community and remind people the budget season is coming and we want them to be present and here for it and engaged with the budget process from the very beginning. So, all right. We're good on this. Any other thoughts on communication for this evening?
Yeah, one
Courtney?
more. And, well, the idea is last year we did a budget newsletter, legally required. A lot of districts put out regular newsletters throughout the year. And And so I'm hesitant to bring it up because I know there isn't a whole lot of spare time, and this would probably mostly fall on Dusty. But the idea of putting, one thing I really like about sort of an old school newsletter is that it is a physical item that lands in every single person's mailbox, as opposed to emails which get deleted. We don't have the right email address for everybody. It hits, in theory, everybody in the community, not just parents or former parents. And so I'd really love to have a couple more of those go out throughout the year. And so especially to get the community involved in the budget process, it might be worthwhile to look at putting out a simple newsletter soonish, talking about, and there's so many things in the school to highlight. Anything can be pulled from Allison's Friday weekly newsletters, and then information about budget workshops and whatnot.
I like that. And it shouldn't cost us that much because Dusty, I think you design those, you print them, you do everything. So.
It's just the postage, the materials, and the time.
There is
Yep.
the postage, yes. Maybe some people volunteer to pick theirs up from here.
Which isn't horrible, the postage.
Okay. I like the idea, once we have those budgets, dates set, of doing a newsletter, maybe with some good pictures from some of our recent exciting events, like the winter concert.
I'd be happy to help work on it with you, so it's not all on you.
Is there a way to encourage people to come to the budget meeting by also maybe having a tour of the school that shows off the new construction to folks in the community that haven't been in the building, might be curious about it?
That would be great.
That's a good idea.
I like that, an open house and budget discussion. Maybe build that into one of the Saturdays so we can cook, because I think that Saturday one, even though it was a snowstorm, was one of the most well-attended budget sessions.
Yeah, we had a big crowd for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to go along with that comment, if we can't really get to the community that don't have students in the school to come and visit and see the construction and understand the budget, that's going to be key. I got asked the question, how's construction going, by someone on the train, by someone who, right? So it'd be good for the community to see the project and how amazing the school looks.
I know we partner with Desmond Fish on a lot of other initiatives. I wonder if they would help us share the information about the tour open house budget discussion as well and get that, and beyond posting the flyer, but I know they have an engaged mailing list as well. Maybe we could ask.
And last year, we did like a virtual presentation through their platform, too.
Yeah. I think they would capture some people who might want to see this building in person finally, see the changes to your point. Any other thoughts on communication? We're good? All right. Great ideas. Moving on to public comment. Public comment is intended for members of the community to speak openly and voice concerns in accordance with Policy 3220 of the Garrison Union Free School District. Any person wishing to speak shall comply with all provisions of this policy. Comments about specific school personnel or individual students is a violation of board policy. Concerns regarding students or personnel should be discussed privately with the superintendent or appropriate administrator. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes, and speakers are asked to conduct themselves in a respectful manner. The board will listen to comments but will not engage in dialogue. Any necessary follow-up will be noted and provided through the appropriate channel. Members of the public wishing to comment during board meetings are asked to place their name and town of residence on the sign-in sheet. Commenters will be invited to the podium to address the board. Okay. There's no comments at this time. I'm going to go ahead and move on. Next, we have accept the minutes. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby accept the minutes of the regular meeting of December 7th, 2022, and the minutes of the December 9th, 2022 special meeting as presented. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. Do you have any questions or comments regarding the minutes as presented? Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays, abstentions. Next, we have committee reports. Jocelyn, we have a DEI committee report.
We met on December 13th with 5 people there. We got a great update from Principal Emig about all the things that have been going on at the school related to DEI, including professional learning days, professional learning sessions. We talked about the ELA audit, which is still kind of happening because the books are still being unpacked and unshelved. We talked about the Bridges program, which all of us know very well, but I think we're going to try to introduce the concept a little bit more clearly to the faculty before it gets going. And we had an update on the idea of the community book read, which I think I told you all about last time, where we were awarded up to $3,000 from GSEF to do a book read that will involve pre-K to 8 and all the families. And so now a few of us are trying to pick a book that can work for all of the grades. Marge Giuliano is working on it, a parent, Enrica Halen, and I, and Ms. Emig is advising us on it. So if you have recommendations, I heard Sons of Liberties is like, it's a really great read. I might add it to the list.
There's a Ruby Bridges book that they did editions
For multiple ages.
for multiple ages. And if you reach out to some of the publishing houses, they'll tell you which books they have for multiple ages.
So I'll add that one.
Yeah.
We're trying to, any other suggestions, please tell us. Because we're also deciding, since this is the first book read, how much do we hit the community with something or not, with topics that might be addressed in the book. And so I'm happy to push, but I love to hear ideas of things that could maybe land well with the whole school community, or not, I don't know. And then we have a meeting again in February, so that's it. Hopefully by then we'll have a book selected and get some program rollout. Anything I missed? Who else is on? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Jocelyn and her
The
committee?
board need to read the books also, right?
Say it again?
The board will have to read
Yes.
the books also, right?
We'll also get the board copies.
Absolutely. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on then to financial reports. First, we have accept treasurer's report and claims audit report. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District does hereby accept the treasurer's report for November 2022 and the claims audit report for November 2022 as presented. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Okay. Have any, Joe, do you want to speak to any of these? Do we have any questions?
There's
These are-
normal and
yeah.
routine reports that we present.
Anyone have any questions on any of the reports? Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays, abstentions. Okay. I'm going to move on to the personnel agenda. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, does hereby approve the items of the personnel consent agenda as presented. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Carl, do you want to speak to any of these?
Sure, we just have 3 personnel items. The first is girls modified softball coach, Mr. Kevin Keegan, who's coached for us for many years, former Guffs teacher, is doing that work. You may notice, well, we're a little earlier than usual. Mr. Beckley and I have talked about recommending the coaches and asking the board to appoint them early so we can be very proactive with planning our seasons. So that's the idea behind putting a spring coach on in January. The second one is for Mr. Onito, one of our custodial workers who has received his CDL license. There is a change in title and a small raise and a stipend that our contract offers those who have CDL license. It comes in very handy if someone is absent, if we're overbooked with maybe trips or opportunities and we need someone to drive a bus. He will now be able to do that. Lastly, we have a recommendation to appoint a school counselor. Miss Christine Ferreira has been substituting for our district for the past couple of years. She's subbing right now. She did some work last year. She did leave us in the spring to do a leave replacement, a guidance counselor leave replacement, so she's got some good experience. She is a career changer, but we've been impressed with her work. We expect to have a need for a leave replacement guidance counselor in the spring. We're thinking right now, April through June. So people may wonder, well, gee, why are we appointing now? Fortunately, the expense of this will be covered by Putnam County's American Rescue Plan grant money. So this costs the district nothing. Like all districts, we have students that are still feeling the effects of the pandemic. Having an extra counselor on staff is very valuable. You also may recall that our psychologist is here 2 to 3 days a week. So this person will fill in when the psychologist is not here to work with and support our children. Also, there'll be plenty of time to transition with Ms. DiDiego, who, again, we anticipate will go out on leave in April. So I see it as a win-win because it's paid for through a grant, and we get the benefit of a guidance counselor starting now through June. And this is a term appointment. There's nothing beyond June. And again, it's no expense to the district. Any questions? Yes.
School counselor be working full-time, starting whenever she gets appointed?
The recommendation, if the board acts tonight, would be to have her start tomorrow full-time.
So then, does the building have coverage for the substitution work she was doing? Do we feel like there's enough support in that? Or will she be able to do both, or is she going to really be dedicated to school counseling?
The idea is now, she was doing a bit of both, substituting from September through December. The idea now is with this appointment to have her strictly be a counselor. I mean, if there was an emergency and she had to cover a class, you know, sometimes we need to do what we need to do. Mrs. Amig covers classes even from time to time. But I do think we have sufficient subs, per diem subs, to cover the teaching assignments. Okay, Mrs. Amig is telling us that she's interviewing some additional subs, and again, they'll be hired per diem and only used as needed to backfill.
We
Okay?
keep that posting open and updated, correct?
We do.
Madeline?
So I see that she used to be a dancer, right? And she used to have a dance group. Any opportunity to use that with the counseling to just enhance the whole experience? I think something to
Yeah, we
there.
can. Mrs. Amig is nodding. Yes,
Movement, something.
yes, we could. Oh,
Perfect. Great.
okay, we'll speak with her. Thanks.
I just want to go back and clarify regarding the coaching appointments. For boys baseball, we currently have a merger in place with Haldane, and that's correct. So what happens with these two sports, we host softball, and Haldane joins us, and Haldane hosts baseball, and the boys go to Haldane. So both sports are currently then covered for spring.
That is correct.
Thank you.
And we'll be back May or June, the latest, to appoint the fall
Thank you.
season. We're going to do everything proactively.
Great.
Somewhat related. When we talk about sports for next year, can we have a discussion at some point about adding other modified sports, potential costs to that? Things, I know there are modified sports at Haldane that we do not merge with over there. Things like cross-country, I know that
Putnam Valley has some.
Putnam
I'd like
Valley has
to
other
look
sports
at
as well.
too.
We have
Yeah.
these partner districts. There might be a good opportunity to offer more sports to kids other than what we offer now.
I think that's a great idea, and it would be great part of the budget process as well to look at the cost. And there's some legal questions that we're currently clarifying that will help us in those discussions as well. Any other questions or thoughts before we move to a vote? All right. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Okay. Next, we have CSE, CPSE recommendations. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District approve the Committee on Special Education, CSE, and the Committee on Preschool Special Education, CPSE, recommendations and student placements. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Thank you. We will move on to new business. We have a request for approval of budget transfer. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, does hereby approve a budget transfer for January 2023 as presented at this meeting. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? Joe, did you want to say anything, or it's just to cover expenses in an unanticipated line item, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Out of district versus in-district expenses, yes.
Thank you. All right. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays, abstentions. We now move to our second public comment section of this evening. I'm not going to read the paragraph again, but I do have a sign-in sheet here. If anyone wishes to speak, you're welcome to come sign in. The podium is yours. Okay. I'm going to go ahead then and move on to board member comment and other discussion. All right. Start with you, Jocelyn. Madeline?
No comment.
Okay. Courtney?
No comment?
Kent?
No comment.
Okay. Matt?
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead then and plug Matt's book, which is coming out. So Sons of Liberty will release on January 26th, available in paperback and ebook, correct? It's currently available for pre-order wherever you choose to buy your books. On February 4th, Saturday at 2 p.m., there is a Desmond Fish author event. We're going to let everyone know about this again at the February 1st meeting, but go ahead and mark your calendars so we can all go. It'll be a lot of fun. And we can all attend, right? As long as we don't gather in a group. It won't be quorum if we like spread out amongst ourselves. Yeah.
Yes.
We just talk about the book. They're talking about the school board.
Not about the school board.
You know, there is a great book, though. If no one's read it, the author of Refugee, Alan Gratz, wrote Ban This Book, which really goes, have you read that? It's all about students who come to a school board meeting because books are getting banned. And it's about school board policy and takes place in school board meetings. Kids like fighting to get to school board
The
meetings.
daily podcast like 2 or 3 weeks ago about that very issue, school boards. It was fascinating.
I only read YA books usually. I don't listen to podcasts. So.
Thank you for the plug.
Yeah. So
We'll plug again next month.
absolutely.
And forever.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
We should bring our copies, right, to the next meeting to get them.
Along with the new communications agenda element, we could have a Spicer book plug right after that. Just make it a regular.
Start reading some of the reviews as they come in.
Yeah. I'll select them and bring them in.
That would be great.
Yeah.
I'd appreciate that. Okay, it is 4 minutes to 8 o'clock, guys. I'm feeling really good about this one. Okay, any other questions or comments from the board for communications? All right. Executive session. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby enters into executive session for the purpose of reviewing the personnel records of particular probationary personnel and receiving legal counsel. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays, abstentions. We will adjourn executive session with no further action being taken. Please log out and shut down your computers for Dusty. Thank you all. See you in February.